We're going to talk about lesson 89, and it is about congruent triangles. Remember, congruent means the same. And so there's four identities that we're going to talk about regarding triangles, and you'll have a worksheet to do for homework. So there are four identities or sets of information that are true that we need to talk about and learn how to use to prove that triangles are congruent or match. This is more of a geometry lesson, but that sort of geometry is sprinkled in to our algebra the way we do that around PCAL. So let's talk about these four things. Now these are a lot of words. I'll explain what they mean in regular vocabulary. So the first identity is called side, side, side. If you have two triangles, here's what the whole definition is. Two triangles are congruent if the sides of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding sides of another triangle. If you have a triangle and you're told all three sides are congruent, all three sides match, the whole triangle is congruent to the other triangle. Side, 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 and you abbreviate that SSS. And this is going to make more sense as we actually see it, but I want to go over what they are first. The second one is side, angle, side. You have two triangles. They're congruent if two sides and their included angle. So if you're looking at it, you have a side, then an angle, then a side that match the side, angle, side of another triangle. Those two triangles are congruent. Then you have then you have angle, side, angle. This says two triangles are congruent if two angles and their included side. So the side between the two angles, and again, this will make sense when we see it visually. So that's angle, side, angle. The third one is angle, angle, side. Two triangles are congruent if two angles and an included side on one triangle are congruent to the corresponding. So side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side. And let me show you how you're going to use this information because that is just weird. So let's go and see how to use it. So let's look at kind of what this looks like when we're actually going to have to use this information. So these are three different, oh gosh, that's crooked, three different things here. So we're told to prove that these triangles are congruent. Okay. The first principle that we talked about was side, side, side. So if we start with this triangle, we can see that we have congruent there. We know because there's one tick mark. These sides are congruent. We know those match because there's two tick marks. Now, if we're kind of logical, if they're sharing a side, they're obviously the same side, which means that the three sides of this triangle match, which means all three sides are congruent, therefore the whole triangle is congruent. And so what you're going to be asked to do is to identify which theory or which, oh, my brain just shut down, which operation is not the right word, which statement proves that these triangles are congruent. Well, this is proved by the side, side, side theorem because they have three matching sides. All right, let's look at this one. The second one we talked about was side, angle, side. And if we look at this triangle, we have a side, then we have a second side, and I think the wording before was it's included angle. So if I'm reading from here to here, the included angle is right here. If I'm reading from 1 to 2, the included angle is right here. So these two triangles have two sides and an included or in between angle that match. So therefore, these are congruent, and it is proven using the idea of side, angle, side. This is kind of dumb. I will be honest. I do not like geometry, but it's one of those things we have to do. You will, if you're already saying, hey, when am I ever going to use this in real life? I don't know. You will use algebra a lot more than you will know. This aspect of geometry, I am not sure, and I do not enjoy it. Okay, let's look at these two triangles, number 3. And what we can see is we have an angle that's congruent, a side that's congruent, and a second angle that is congruent. So these are congruent because of angle, side, angle. And that's really like all that this is. You're just going to look at two triangles and you are going to decide if they are congruent by side, 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 by side, angle, by angle, side, angle. And I think one more talks about, let me look it up, angle, angle, side. So if I had triangles that had two angles and one side congruent, then the whole thing is congruent because of side, side, because of angle, angle, side. Again, this is like kind of dumb in all honesty, but it's one of those things that we have to just do. So let me put one more slide of examples up. Let's look at this set of triangles. We have two triangles. We're told they both have a right angle, and we're told they have one side that is congruent. And that's all. One of the big things about geometry is that you cannot assume something. Just because something looks the same or looks equal, you cannot assume it. This is all the information I'm given. They have one angle and one side. That is not enough information to prove that these triangles are congruent. And so if you're asked, you would have to say something along the lines of there's not enough information given. Now, if I add in here that these angles are congruent, I now have two angles that are congruent, and I have one side that are congruent. So I can say these triangles are congruent because of angle, angle, side. They have two angles and a side that are congruent. And for real, that's this whole lesson, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to do all of lesson 89. Class, so number 1, the classwork, all the way through number 4. When you pull your textbook out, the classwork 1 and 2 are just identifying those. Angle, angle, side, 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 whichever theory fits. You're going to have to draw and label a pair on number 3. And then number 4 is some other geometry kind of based on what we did last week. So let me know if you have any questions. And don't stress about this too much. Don't make it harder than it is. Just do what you can.